The horror genre is home to a lot of quality flicks, as well as low-budget schlock, making it hard for a viewer to determine what's good and what's a waste of time. Fortunately, we've patched together a list of those films that are worth the watch. Though these movies are all pretty different in subject matter and tone, they're all worthwhile horror films that have helped define the genre. The Exorcist. Even 4 decades after its release, 1973's The Exorcist is still the possession thriller by which all others are judged, and for good reason. Its ability to infuse a stewing sense of dread alongside moments of body horror stands alone. The grotesque tour de force made no apologies for its use of profanity or gross body fluid spewing, and it's a lasting classic as a result. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Existing at the perfect intersection of art and schlock, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974 is a tangibly dirty, grungy, and frightening movie. Launching sequels and a remake franchise that are by turns too loud and too trashy, the movie that started it all is an exercise in unpleasantness. Its characters are largely unlikable, its villains the perfect version of incomprehensible hillbilly cruelty.
Look what your brother did to that dog!
The plot, essentially about a Texas road trip that goes south fast, will remind you why they tell you to not ever talk to strangers, pick up hitchhikers, or ask questions about what's going on in the rickety old house at the edge of town. Invasion of the Body Snatchers. The very definition of a time-worn tale in cinema, the 1978 version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers is a story that's been remade over and over again, which speaks to the strength of its premise. The feeling of being helpless in an unrecognizable society is something many might identify with, but the slow-burn introduction of these alien invaders is deeply disturbing. Thrilling to the final frame, it's a story that stays with you, anchored by an excellent cast of smart, unique characters that you root for, making it hurt all the more when they fail and fall. Alien. Ridley Scott's Alien from 1979 continues to resonate so many years later because it has a lot of unique qualities. A female protagonist who's just as strong and capable as anybody else, a profound sense of isolation, and an enemy that cannot be reasoned with. Its characters are constantly under the gun, tasked with identifying their threat while simultaneously struggling to survive against it. Beyond the impressive intellectual framework, there are also some shock and awe scenes that have since become iconic moments of cinema. The Shining. With brilliant performances from its cast, quotable lines, unmatched cinematography, and those awful twins, The Shining from 1980 is an absolute masterpiece.
Here's Johnny!
It worms its way into your head with beautiful imagery and a hypnotic pace, showing the disillusion of one man's sanity over the course of an isolated winter at the Overlook Hotel. Stanley Kubrick's at his best here, with deliberate choices made for each frame that's as visually stunning as it is packed with unforgettable tension. The Thing. John Carpenter is considered the master of horror, and this may well be his best effort in the genre. Taking creature feature elements and combining them with the who's who paranoia of a Body Snatchers remake, The Thing from 1982 plants its characters in isolated Antarctica and tasks them with surviving against an alien lifeform that can assume their likenesses. It's a rich premise that combines subtle, character-based interplay with full-blown body horror, like a human head scuttling around with spider legs. With a cast to root for and a villain to fear, The Thing is Exhibit A in the argument for John Carpenter's primacy among horror engineers. A remake that runs laps around its source material and bests any modern attempts to do better. Return of the Living Dead. An offshoot of George Romero's Living Dead films, this spiritual cousin is easily one of the most goofily enjoyable zombie movies ever. 1985's Return of the Living Dead follows a group of dirtbag ravers whose graveyard party gets upset by a zombie uprising caused by acid rain. Return takes a lively approach to its material that still feels fresh, even if the hilariously dated fashion of the characters decidedly does not.
Why do you eat people?
Not people. Brains.
Being too self-serious about zombie material is a trap that lots of movies' fellows fall into, but Return sidesteps that problem with aplomb. It's not a parody, just a great ride. Jacob's Ladder. This quiet character study from 1990 follows Jacob Singer, a Vietnam veteran and postal service worker who slowly comes to believe that either his sanity or reality itself is falling apart. The film is notable for some standout sequences. Take, for example, Singer's long gurney ride through a hellish hospital littered with body parts, blood, and inhuman monsters gone mad. The sequence has influenced horror media for decades afterwards, so even if you haven't seen this movie, you've definitely seen its impact. In the decades since its release, it's developed into a noted cult classic, lauded for its indelible imagery as much as the deep melancholy at its core. Scream. The first film ever to kick off the self-aware horror trend is also still the best.
Oh, just some scary movie.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Wes Craven, who was already horror royalty thanks to The Hills Have Eyes, The People Under the Stairs, and the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, outdid himself with Scream in 1996. This funny, freaky slasher flick subverted every trope in the book and roundly mocked the horror genre at large, while still scaring the hell out of its audience.
Oh, you want to play psycho killer? Can I be the helpless victim?
The Blair Witch Project. The found footage project that started it all, 1999's The Blair Witch Project launched plenty of copycat projects that never got anywhere close to the haunted, pine-scented quality of the original. The forest itself becomes the monster in this ultra-low-budget camcorder picture, where every tangle of twigs and leaves takes on an eerie suspicion. Following a group of hapless young filmmakers as they circle the wilderness, lost and increasingly certain they're being hunted, the film is a story about madness, isolation, and distrust while still infusing a classic ghost story in its bones. Its title antagonist is never truly seen, and maybe not even real, but that's part of the beauty of the film. The witch's absence offers an uncertainty that gets to the heart of what horror is: fear and a sense of helplessness in the face of the unknown. Audition. Back in the days before OkCupid or eHarmony, a widowed, middle-aged businessman had to get creative when it came to finding a date. Or at least that's the premise of Audition from 1999. This Japanese horror film is a very slow burn, with a scream-worthy finale as the poor, lovelorn protagonist realizes that the young lady he's auditioned to be his new bride comes with a checkered past and some disturbing baggage. In addition to boasting stellar performances and a creative, scary script, Audition has the added benefit of making your worst Tinder date look like a great time by comparison. The Descent. Claustrophobes be wary. If you've got a fear of being trapped in tight spaces, The Descent from 2005 is one of the scariest movies you could watch. The unique story of a group of female cavers who get lost in the uncharted depths, The Descent is a top-notch horror experience that gets taken to the next level when the heroes stop spelunking and have to start caving in monsters' skulls. They've got to fight for survival, all while wading through massive lakes of blood. Be sure to catch the version with the original ending, which was deemed too dark for US audiences and cut from the theatrical release. The Mist. A lot of Stephen King's horror novels have been made into movies or TV shows, but only some of them have been successful at translating the tension and terror of the source material to the screen.
I don't think you'd like it, Henry.
The Mist was of the few to get it right thanks to the unsettling plot tweaks sprinkled in by writer-director Frank Darabont. The 2007 film tells the story of a New England town beset by unspeakable, otherworldly horrors that descend under the cover of an impenetrable, mysterious mist. It's a solid monster movie, but its scariest moments are the ones that reveal the dark tribalism of human beings who believe they're witnessing the end of the world, and it pulls no punches on that front. King even famously said that Darabont's gut-wrenching twist ending for the film is the one he wishes he'd written himself. Paranormal Activity. Found footage horror got a fresh face with this 2007 movie, which proved that you don't need a gothic mansion or dilapidated cabin in the woods to make a highly effective haunting flick. All the action of Paranormal Activity takes place in the comfy, carpeted setting of a suburban townhome, as a pair of newlyweds learn they're not entirely alone in their house. Like its genre predecessor, The Blair Witch Project, Paranormal Activity is all about the slow burn. Even the most ordinary occurrences, like a door swinging shut or a hall light illuminating off-screen, are imbued with foreboding, and the teeny-tiny cast does a convincing job of making the found footage premise feel real. Martyrs. Profoundly disturbing to the point of being unwatchable, 2008's Martyrs was one of the progenitors of the French extreme horror movement and earned that distinction in every single way. From the opening sequence, which depicts the chillingly merciless murder of an entire family, the movie only gets harder to watch. It's a curiosity killed the cat parable about revenge, mercy, and humanity's search for meaning, and it's unlike anything you've ever seen. It challenges you to keep watching right up to the cruel and bitter end. But watch the original rather than the 2016 remake, because that one's scary for a whole different series of reasons. Let the Right One In. Not to be confused with Let Me In, the regrettable American remake, Let the Right One In was a sleepy Swedish surprise. In the 2008 pick, a bullied young boy named Oscar makes friends with an unusual new neighbor who only comes out at night because, well, she's a vampire. But Let the Right One In doesn't go the way of Twilight or True Blood and try to get too campy about human-vampire relations. Instead, it's a smart piece of commentary on the loneliness of the human condition. That is, when people aren't being drained of blood, bursting into flames, or getting torn to shreds by a bunch of cute little kitties. You're next. Home invasion thrillers are a staple subgenre within the horror film family, and Your Next is a perfect specimen of this often mishandled storyline. With an opening scene that sets just the right mood, a stylish execution, and a badass final girl who you'll be rooting for from the get-go, there's nothing about this 2011 movie that isn't utterly on point. Except maybe for the fact that there's no sequel. Goodnight Mommy. This Austrian feature from 2014 is a masterclass in making the audience feel very, very bad. Two twins develop a syndrome that makes them believe their mother, lost in depression after being disfigured in an accident, has been replaced by an imposter. The story unfolds with train wreck inevitability as their investigation turns from curious to cruel, playing with the allegiances of the audience in an excruciating way. The story is riddled with blank spaces and patches of silence where a lesser film would try to tell the audience too much. The amazing result is that the viewers have to do the legwork on figuring out what's really going on. And the film is not so much about jump surprises as it is about the pure horror of watching innocent children do terrible, unspeakable things. The Witch. Not only is The Witch historically authentic to an eerie degree, but its careful approach to introducing scary supernatural elements into the real-life religious anxieties of colonial New Englanders is intensely unsettling. And the climax of this 2015 film is an emotional piece of hell. A lot hinges on the endings of horror movies, and this one sticks the landing with confidence. It's an unsparing picture, the very meaning of dreadful, and a modern classic. Get Out. A Meet the Parents situation goes terribly awry in Jordan Peele's directorial debut, Get Out, which hit theaters in 2017 amid a wave of well-deserved buzz. The movie follows interracial couple Rose and Chris, who are visiting for a weekend at Rose's parents' estate, a classy place where the polished veneer of white liberal tolerance turns out to be masking some deep, dark, terrifying secrets about why there aren't more black folks in town. Get Out fully lives up to the hype, delivering suspense and scares while also tackling complex and uncomfortable racial issues with incisive wit. If it doesn't make you scream, it'll definitely make you squirm.
Into the floor.
Wait.
Sit.
Thanks for watching. Click the looper icon to subscribe to our YouTube channel, plus check out all this cool stuff we know you'll love too.